Hey guys, happy Saturday morning. Dr. Kyle here. We're actually just wrapping up Saturday morning shift here, seeing patients. I'm getting ready to head home for the weekend, I want to take a moment and just talk to you a little bit about chiropractic and why we're still seeing patients right now. Despite the shelter-at-home order, we are considered an essential service, and chiropractic, whether it's this office here or the many other dedicated doctors of chiropractic throughout the Rockford and the greater Rockford area, many of us are open because we're still seeing patients that are suffering with pain, still seeing patients that are suffering from chronic things that unfortunately there's just very few options right now. And the current situation with our society essentially closing down has left a lot of people with empty hands and not a lot of hope. And I just want to take a second, because I've been talking to patients about loved ones and family members and coworkers and things they've been talking to. There is hope. There really is hope. And right now, there's a lot of people that are looking for questions or looking for answers to chronic pain, or maybe even they had an injury that just popped up, a fall or something. While there's certainly still resources out medically for you, a lot of hospitals and ERs or immediate cares, places like that, they're limiting the number of patients that they're seeing for pain. There's a lot of elective surgeries that are being pushed back now by several weeks or several months because they're trying to limit the exposure of people into the hospitals and into medical settings. Completely reasonable considering the circumstances, but unfortunately those patients don't have much to turn to. Opioids are one of the things that are out there, and as severe as this outbreak is right now with corona, the truth is the opioid crisis was still going strong before this happened. It's still something that is taking the lives of people in our community, in our neighborhoods, and the people that we care about. It's still affecting them, whether they're starting to take an opioid for pain or they are farther down that path. So it's not something that just disappeared because now there's a virus going around. This is something people are still chronically dealing with and still looking for answers for. So a lot of the things that I've been posting on Facebook lately and things like that, it has to do with the opioid crisis, because quite frankly, I think that's something that's not being talked about enough, is how people can manage what's going on beyond just the physical limitation of contact with others. The opioids are a kind of a long story, so it's not something that we need to go into too much detail, but starting in the 1990s, opioids became much more readily available to patients that otherwise wouldn't be on those. Up until the 1990s, they were such a strong class of drugs that they were really only given for people that were dealing with post-surgery pain or things like late-stage cancer where the pain was severe. And it was really just a palliative measure in order to make you comfortable, unfortunately, as you reach that stage of the disease spread. But in the 1990s, these pharmaceutical companies came out and they said, hey, look, we got these new formulations that are faster acting. They're not as addictive. They're not as harmful. And so they became much more widely available to doctors to prescribe because they were seeing an influx and an increase in pain. Specifically, back pain was really taking off. And these doctors, the medical doctors, they were looking for answers because you care about the people that are in front of you. And it offered short-term relief, but it never really got to the root of the problem, right? So as the prescriptions went up and up and up, people were taking more of these medications and they were getting relief. They were able to do things that they were looking to do. But like most things, unfortunately, it wasn't solving the problem. It was just offering a solution while you were on that medication, right? And unfortunately, as people got more and more on these, a couple of things happened. Number one, the body becomes more used to it. It metabolizes it, different things like that. And so the dose had to keep going up. And so as the doses kept going up over the years and years, they had to move up to stronger combinations of drugs or other things to go with it. And it became a true addiction because of that, not to any fault of the patients, but because that's how the body responds. It's intelligent. It figures out how to handle things that you're putting into it. It also, the other thing that happened was it created a euphoria, right? It did create less pain. It created this reaction in the brain that was very satisfying. And so when you weren't able to be on it, not only were you in pain, but it actually changed your brain composition, your brain chemistry. It became a very true addiction. And when you weren't able to get on that medication or you weren't able to refill or whatever it might be, or you weren't getting that same effect because your body was changing and the dose had to change, it led people to take higher and higher doses, to experiment with other drugs, both illicit and legal, just looking for answers. And unfortunately, that is still happening, even with the regulations that have been put in place over the last few years to try and curb this. The most common of these, of course, is OxyContin. That was kind of I'll say the big one that broke into the market commercially or on a higher level in the 90s. If you recognize the name OxyContin, made by Purdue Pharma. Purdue Pharma recently filed for bankruptcy because they're facing 2,000 plus lawsuits all over the country saying that they deceived and they lied to doctors and patients about how addictive this was. So while they made a killing for the last 30 years at the expense of the people that were looking for hope, it's caught up to them to the point now where they simply can't afford to continue to do business. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't help people that are chemically addicted to these drugs. And right now, people that are maybe suffering at home, looking for options for pain relief, whether it's an opioid or it's over the counter that they're just taking consistently with side effects, whatever it might be. The reason I bring all this up is because I want you to know that if you are somebody that's looking for pain relief at this time, whether if you are taking a prescription or if you're taking over the counter, or maybe you just don't like taking medication, but you're looking for answers, you're looking for something that will help. Here's the thing I've been talking to my patients about so they can share with their loved ones as well. Number one, recognize that the food that you eat, the exercise you get, your posture, it all plays a role in either reducing and inflammation is one of the key markers for pain, for exaggerating a pain or an injury that's there. So while this may not be enough to just completely take away the pain, please know that if you are in pain, eating properly, avoiding sugar is going to be a huge benefit to your body and offers an opportunity for hope until you can find a longer-term solution. Same with posture. Posture, if it's poor, will increase inflammation, stretch muscles, create more physical injury on top of what's causing your pain. So be very conscious of the way you're lifting, bending, twisting, and moving during this time if you're doing home improvement and things like that, like many people are. Those are huge things that you can do to help to at least mitigate and get through this time. The other thing is that chiropractic does offer help with that. There's a reason that now many medical agencies are saying that the first option for pain relief should not be surgery, should not be opioids. It should be physical medicine. Things like massage and chiropractic can do significant improvement for your pain, depending on what's going on. So I say that to say this, that's why we're still here. We're still helping people. We're still an essential service because we're helping to reduce the load on hospitals and medical doctors right now. So if you have a chiropractor but you haven't been to one for a while, please consider going back and getting adjusted. Now, if you're comfortable, of course, there's a lot of things to make sure that they're following the CDC regulations like we are when it comes to sanitation and things like that. But just know that your chiropractor is likely there for you at this time. So get in touch with them. If you're looking for answers and you don't have a chiropractor, but maybe you're curious or you've heard about it and whatever it might be, just know that we are available here at Chiropractic First at Rockford. We'd love to be able to help you if it's appropriate, right? So with that in mind, have a wonderful weekend. Take it, if you have any questions or things like that, leave a comment on this thread and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I'm able to. Whether you're a patient or not, I want to make sure that our community is healthier coming out of this current situation than we are going in, and certainly pain management is a huge part of that. Have a blessed weekend, guys. It's going to be great on the other end of this. I know it. Just keep looking for ways to make yourself healthier, reduce inflammation, and we'll get through this together. Have a great weekend.